I never imagined that the person I needed to protect my husband from was the same little girl I had once tucked into bed every night. I stood in that sterile hallway, my hand gripping the strap of my purse so hard my knuckles turned white, trying to process what the doctor had just whispered to me. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. "Keep your daughter away from him," he had said, his eyes wide with a mixture of professional fear and personal urgency. "Do not let her give him one more pill." Before I could ask him why, before I could scream or cry or demand answers, the door opened and she walked back in. My daughter, Olivia. She was smiling that perfect polished smile of hers, holding a cup of coffee as if she hadn't just been plotting the slow destruction of her own father. If you want to see how a 65-year-old grandmother took down a criminal in her own kitchen, you have to watch this until the very end. But first, please subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments, would you trust your children with your life? My name is Sophia, and for the last 3 years I have been living in a slow-motion nightmare. It didn't happen all at once. It was a gradual erosion like water wearing down a stone. My husband, James, was the strongest man I ever knew. We met when we were 20. He was working construction, and I was waitressing at a diner on Main Street. We built a life together, brick by brick, dollar by dollar. We bought a beautiful house with a big wraparound porch in a quiet neighborhood just outside of Nashville. We raised 2 children, paid off our mortgage, and looked forward to growing old on that porch, drinking iced tea and watching the fireflies. But life rarely follows the plans we make. When James turned 68, the fog rolled in. That's what we called it at first. The fog started with small things. He would lose his keys. Then he would forget to pay the electric bill. One afternoon, I found him standing in the backyard, staring at the lawnmower, crying because he couldn't remember how to start it. This was a man who could fix anything, a man who had built the deck we were standing on with his own 2 hands. To see him so helpless broke something inside me. I took him to our family doctor, Dr. Evans, who ran some basic tests and shrugged his shoulders. "It's likely early-onset dementia, Sophia," he said gently. "Or Alzheimer's. It's hard to say for sure without a specialist, but the decline is aggressive." That was when Olivia stepped in. Olivia is our oldest. She was always the ambitious one. While our son, Noah, moved to Montana to live a quiet life as a park ranger, Olivia stayed close. She went into finance, moved to the city, and wore suits that cost more than my first car. She was sharp, driven, and, I thought, successful. But looking back, I realize I didn't know my daughter as well as I thought I did. When James got sick, Olivia became a saint. Or so it seemed. She drove out to the house 3 times a week. She took over the scheduling of his appointments. She organized his medications. She even offered to handle our finances, saying it was too much stress for me to worry about bills while caring for a sick husband. "Mom, you look exhausted," she would say, her voice dripping with concern as she poured me a glass of wine. "Let me handle the bank accounts. Let me talk to the lawyers. You just focus on Dad." I was so grateful. I was drowning in grief, watching the man I loved fade away, and here was my capable, brilliant daughter throwing me a lifeline. I handed over the passwords. I signed the papers she put in front of me, barely reading them because my eyes were too blurry from tears. I trusted her. She was my flesh and blood. But James kept getting worse. Much worse. And it wasn't a steady decline. It was erratic. Some days he would be almost like his old self, making jokes, asking about the neighbors. But then Olivia would come over to refill his organizers, and the next morning, he would be a zombie. He would drool. He would slur his words. He wouldn't know who I was. "It's the progression of the disease, Mom," Olivia would say, patting my hand with her manicured nails. "It attacks the brain in waves. We have to be prepared for the end." Then, she talked about his death like it was a business transaction schedule. Last Tuesday changed everything. Olivia had insisted we see a new specialist, a neurologist named Dr. Mason, at the University Hospital downtown. She said he was the best in the state. She said she had pulled strings to get us in. The drive there was agonizing. James was in the back seat, staring out the window with a blank expression, picking at the fabric of his trousers. Olivia was driving her Lexus, chatting away on her Bluetooth headset about liquidating assets and optimizing portfolios. "Mom," she said, muting her call. "While we're in town, I think we should stop by the attorney's office after the doctor. We need to update Dad's will. The current one is outdated." "Not today, Olivia," I said, feeling a headache coming on. "Let's just see what the doctor says." "We can't keep putting this off," she snapped, her tone sharpening. "If Dad becomes fully incapacitated, the state freezes everything. Do you want to lose the house?" She always used fear. That was her weapon. Fear of losing the house, fear of poverty, fear of James hurting himself. We arrived at the hospital. Dr. Mason was a young man, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a nervous energy. He spent a long time with James. He asked him questions James couldn't answer. He made him walk in a straight line, which James failed to do, stumbling into the examination table. Then Dr. Mason did something strange. He asked to see the list of medications James was taking. Olivia handed over a printed list she always carried. "He's on blood pressure meds, a statin, and the memory supplements Dr. Evans recommended," she said smoothly. Dr. Mason looked at the list, then at James, then at me. He frowned. He picked up James's wrist and checked his pulse. He lifted James's eyelids and shone a light into his pupils. His frown deepened. "Mrs. Cuban," Dr. Mason said, looking at me. "Who administers these medications?" "I do," Olivia interjected quickly. "Mom is." "Well, she gets confused sometimes. I fill the pill box every Sunday to make sure the dosages are correct." Dr. Mason nodded slowly. He went back to his computer and typed something furiously. The clicking of the keys was the only sound in the room. "Excuse me," Olivia said, checking her buzzing phone. "I have to take this. It's the office. I'll be right back." She stepped out into the hallway, her heels clicking on the linoleum. The heavy door swung shut behind her. The moment the latch clicked, Dr. Mason spun around in his chair. The professional distance evaporated. He rolled his stool right up to my knees, invading my personal space. His hands were shaking. "Mrs. Cuban, listen to me very carefully," he whispered. The urgency in his voice made my blood run cold. "This isn't dementia." "What?" "Breathe. I've seen this pupil response before. I've seen this specific type of muscle tremor," he hissed, glancing at the door to make sure Olivia wasn't coming back yet. "Your husband is heavily sedated. He is being overdosed on something that isn't on this list. Something powerful." My mouth opened but no sound came out. "Contact the authorities," he whispered, grabbing my hand. "Keep your daughter away from him. Do not let her give him one more pill. Do you understand me? If he takes another dose of whatever she is giving him, his heart might stop." "My daughter," I stammered. "But she loves him. She is poisoning him," Dr. Mason said, his eyes burning into mine. "I'm going to order a toxicology screen right now, but it takes 24 hours for results. You need to get him home and you need to watch him like a hawk. Do not let her." The door handle turned. Dr. Mason spun back to his computer instantly. I stiffened in my chair. Olivia walked in, looking annoyed. "Sorry about that. Incompetent assistants," she sighed. She looked at me, then at the doctor. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Is everything okay? You two look pale." "Everything is fine," Dr. Mason said, though his voice was a little tight. "I was just explaining to your mother that James's condition is complex. I want to run some blood work." "Blood work?" Olivia asked, her body tensing. "Is that necessary? He hates needles. We really need to get going to our next appointment. It is legally required for me to prescribe any further treatment," Dr. Mason lied. He was a bad liar, but Olivia was in a rush. "Fine," she checked her watch. "Make it fast." The nurse came in, took the blood, and we left. The ride home was silent. Olivia seemed agitated, tapping her fingers on the steering wheel. I sat in the passenger seat, my mind racing at 1,000 miles an hour. She is poisoning him. The words echoed in my head. I looked at James in the rearview mirror. He was slumped against the window, drooling slightly. Was he sick? Or was he drugged? Suddenly, memories flashed through my mind. The way Olivia always insisted on filling the pillbox alone. The way she would get angry if I tried to give James his medicine. "You'll mix it up, Mom," she would yell. The way James always seemed worse on Mondays, right after she visited on Sundays. I felt a wave of nausea. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was evil. But why? Why would she hurt her own father? We got home, and Olivia helped get James into his recliner. "Okay," she said, dusting off her hands. "I need to head back to the city. Have a dinner meeting." I refilled Dad's organizer for the week. "It's on the kitchen counter. Make sure he takes the evening dose at 6 p.m. sharp. It's the blue slots." I looked at the plastic container on the granite countertop. It looked like a colorful snake, filled with little chemical pellets. "I will," I said. My voice sounded hollow to my own ears. "And Mom," Olivia said, pausing at the door. She turned to look at me, and for a second the mask slipped. Her eyes were cold. Don't forget about the lawyer. I'm going to email you the papers tonight. Print them and sign them. We can't risk the estate." "I won't forget," I said. Left. I locked the door behind her. Then I locked the deadbolt. Then I pulled the chain across. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed the pill organizer. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped it, and it clattered onto the floor, but thankfully didn't pop open. I picked it up and carried it to the dining room table, turning on the bright overhead light. I popped open the compartment marked Monday p.m. There were the usual pills. The small white one for his heart. The oval one for cholesterol. But buried underneath them, looking almost innocent, were two small pale blue tablets. They had no markings on one side, and a tiny score line on the other. I didn't recognize them. I ran to the junk drawer where we kept the magnifying glass. I examined the pills. Then I got my iPad. I'm not a tech wizard, but I know how to use Google. I searched small round blue pill scored line identification. Thousands of results. It was overwhelming. I tried a different angle. I typed in the names of the medications Dr. Mason had mentioned. Nothing matched. Then I remembered something Olivia had left behind last week. She had left a tote bag in the guest room closet. She used it when she stayed over. I had never snooped in her things. I was raised to respect privacy. But Dr. Mason's voice was in my head. "Contact the authorities." I went upstairs. The house was silent except for the rhythmic ticking of the hallway clock. I felt like a criminal in my own home. I opened the guest room closet. The beige tote bag was there, tucked behind some winter coats. Opened it. Inside were some clothes, a spare phone charger, and a stack of mail. I pulled out the mail. Final notice. As due. Foreclosure warning. My breath hitched. The letters were addressed to Olivia. Her condo in the city, the one she bragged about, the one with the view, was in foreclosure. There were credit card bills with balances that made my eyes water. $50,000. $80,000. My successful, wealthy daughter was broke. She was drowning in debt. I dug deeper into the bag. At the bottom, wrapped in a pair of socks, was a prescription bottle. It wasn't a standard orange bottle from Walgreens. It was white with a label that looked different. Pulled it out. The name on the label wasn't James. It wasn't Olivia. It said, "Patient, Buster Canine." Buster was Olivia's dog. A golden retriever she had put to sleep 3 years ago because he became aggressive and unmanageable. I read the drug name. Asapromazine. I sat down on the edge of the bed, the bottle heavy in my hand. I Googled it. Asapromazine. A sedative and tranquilizer used in veterinary medicine for dogs, cats, and horses. Side effects in humans. Hypotension, severe drowsiness, confusion, memory loss, disorientation, respiratory depression. Asterisk. It wasn't medicine. It was a horse tranquilizer. She was giving my husband dog sedatives to make him look demented. Why? The letters on the bed answered that. She needed money. She needed control of the estate. If James was declared incompetent, and if she tricked me into signing over power of attorney, she could sell the house. She could drain the retirement accounts. She could pay off her debts with her father's life savings. I felt a scream building in my throat, a primal sound of rage and grief. But I swallowed it down. Screaming wouldn't save James. If I confronted her now, she would deny it. She would say the pills were for something else. She would say I was crazy. She had already planted the seeds that I was confused and overwhelmed. If I called the police now, what would they see? An old woman with a confused narrative against a sharp, well-dressed finance professional. It was her word against mine. And she had spent months painting me as the frantic, aging wife. I needed proof. Undeniable proof. I went downstairs. James was snoring softly in the chair. I kissed his forehead. His skin felt clammy. "I've got you, Jimmy," I whispered, using the nickname I hadn't used in years. "I'm going to fix this." I went to the kitchen. I took the pill organizer. I carefully removed every single blue pill from the entire week's supply. I flushed them down the toilet. Then I replaced them with low-dose aspirin tablets I had in the cupboard. They looked similar enough, small, round, pale. Unless she looked closely, she wouldn't know. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the rocking chair by our bed, watching James breathe, holding a baseball bat across my lap. I felt like a sentry at the gates of hell. The next morning, Wednesday, James woke up at 8 a.m. Usually, he slept until noon. "Sophia," he called out. I rushed into the room. "I'm here, James." He looked at me. His eyes were still tired, but the glassiness was gone. He blinked, looking around the room. "Why are the curtains drawn? It's late, isn't it?" "It's morning," I said, tears springing to my eyes. Do you know who I am?" He frowned at me like I was silly. "You're my wife. You're Sophia. Why are you crying?" He remembered. After just 12 hours without the poison, the fog was lifting. "James," I said, gripping his hand. "We have a big problem. You need to listen to me, and you need to stay calm." I told him everything. I showed him the bottle. I showed him the bills. As I spoke, I watched his face transform. The confusion melted away, replaced by a dark, terrifying anger. James was a gentle man, but he was protective. And the realization that his own child had done this, it broke his heart, but it also hardened his resolve. "She thinks I'm gone," James said, his voice raspy but steady. "She thinks I'm a vegetable." "Yes," I said. "And we have to keep her thinking that. Just for a little longer. Until we get the toxicology results." We spent the day planning. It felt like we were young again, us against the world, plotting a revolution at our kitchen table. We called Dr. Mason. He confirmed he had expedited the labs. "If the results are what I think they are," he said, "I'm calling the police myself." "Wait," I told him. "If the police come to the door, she'll lawyer up. She'll spin a story. I need to catch her in the act. I need her to admit it." Thursday morning. The phone rang. It was Olivia. "Mom, I'm coming over," she said. Her voice was tight. "I have the notary with me. We need to sign those papers today." "Today?" I asked, trying to sound frail and anxious. "Oh, Olivia, I don't know. Dad is having a bad day." "That's exactly why we need to do it, Mom," she snapped. "I'm tired of arguing with you. I'm trying to save you from financial ruin. I'll be there in an hour. Have Dad ready." She hung up. I looked at James. He was sitting at the table, drinking coffee, reading the newspaper for the first time in 2 years. "She's coming," I said. "With a notary." James folded the paper. "Let her come. You have to act sick," I said. "You have to be the way you were last week." "I can do that," he said. An hour later, the Lexus pulled into the driveway. Olivia stepped out, looking immaculate in a cream-colored suit. Following her was a short, balding man carrying a briefcase. The notary. I met them at the door. "Hello, dear," I said, wiping my hands on my apron. "Where is he?" Olivia asked, brushing past me. She didn't even say hello. She marched into the living room. James was slumped in his recliner, his mouth slightly open, staring blankly at the TV which was turned off. He looked convincing. My heart ached seeing him like that, knowing it had been his reality for so long. "Jesus," Olivia muttered, looking at him with distaste. "He's getting worse every day." She turned to the notary. "Set up on the dining table. Let's get this over with." She pulled James up by the arm. He stumbled, leaning his weight on her. "Come on, Dad. Time to sign some papers." She practically dragged him to the table. She shoved a pen into his hand. "Okay, Dad," she said, speaking loudly and slowly, like she was talking to a toddler. "I need you to sign right here. It's just for the insurance. Remember, for the insurance." 'Twas a lie. The document header clearly read, "Durable power of attorney and transfer of deed." James's hand hovered over the paper. He shook, the pen rattling against the wood. "Just sign it," Olivia hissed, losing patience. She grabbed his hand and tried to force it down onto the paper. "Olivia," I said, stepping forward. "Maybe we should wait." "He doesn't understand." "He doesn't need to understand," she shouted, spinning on me. Her face was twisted and ugly. "He's gone, Mom. His brain is mush. Someone has to be the adult here. Do you want to end up on the street? Because that's where you're headed if you don't let me fix this. Fix it like you fixed your own finances." I asked quietly. The room went dead silent. Olivia froze. She slowly let go of James's hand. She turned to me, her eyes narrowing into slits. "What did you say?" "I saw the letters, Olivia," I said, keeping my voice steady. "The foreclosure. The credit cards. I know you're broke." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she let out a cold, sharp laugh. "You went through my things. You paranoid old witch. You don't know what you're talking about." "I know about the pills too," I said. The color drained from her face. "Pills? What pills?" "The blue ones," I said. "The ones for the dog." Olivia looked at the notary, who was looking back and forth between us with wide eyes. "Get out," she told him. "But," the man started. "I said get out," she screamed. The man grabbed his briefcase and scrambled out the front door. Now it was just the three of us. Olivia took a step toward me. She looked dangerous. I had never been afraid of my daughter before, but in that moment I saw a stranger, a desperate, cornered animal. "You think you're so smart," she spat. "You think you can stop me. You're a confused old woman. No one will believe you. I'll have you declared incompetent, too. I'll put you both in a home. I'll rot you there." "No, you won't," a deep voice said. Olivia spun around. James was standing up. He wasn't slumping. He wasn't shaking. He was standing tall, his shoulders squared, looking every inch the man who had raised her. "Dad," she whispered. "You're done, Olivia," James said. His voice was clear, strong, and filled with an ice-cold fury. "I heard every word. I felt every time you forced that pen into my hand. I felt every time you shoved those pills down my throat." "No," she stammered, backing away. "Dad, you're having an episode. You're confused." "I was never confused," James said, stepping closer to her. "I was drugged. By my own daughter." Olivia looked at the pill organizer on the counter. "But you took them. I saw the box was empty." "Aspirin," I said. "I swapped them." Olivia looked at me, then at James. The reality of the situation crashed down on her. She lunged for the table, trying to grab the papers, trying to destroy the evidence. "Stop!" James roared. He grabbed her wrist. He didn't hurt her, but he held her firm. It's over. Suddenly, sirens wailed in the distance. Louder and louder. Olivia's eyes went wide. You called the police. Dr. Mason did, I said. He got the toxicology report back an hour ago. You poisoned him, Olivia. She ripped her arm free and ran for the back door. Don't let her leave, shouted. James moved to block the hallway, but he was still weak from years of sedation. Olivia shoved him hard. He stumbled back, hitting the wall. She scrambled for the kitchen door, fumbling with the lock. She got the door open and burst out onto the porch, right into the arms of two uniformed officers who were coming up the back steps. Olivia Cuban? The officer asked. She froze. She looked back at us, then at the cops. She slumped, defeated. We watched from the window as they handcuffed her. My daughter. The girl who used to play dress-up in this very living room. They put her in the back of the cruiser. She didn't look back at the house. The next few months were a blur of legal proceedings. The evidence was overwhelming. The veterinary pills, the foreclosure notices, the toxicology report, the attempted fraud. She didn't have a leg to stand on. It was the hardest thing I have ever gone through. Seeing your child in a courtroom in an orange jumpsuit is a pain I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. She cried. She begged. She said she was desperate, that she intended to pay us back once she got control of the investments. But the judge saw it for what it was. Predatory. Cruel. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison for elder abuse, fraud, and assault. It has been 6 months since that day. James is recovering. It's a slow process. The drugs took a toll on his body, and his memory isn't perfect, but he's him again. He's working in the garden. He's fixing the lawnmower. He remembers my name and he tells me he loves me every single morning. We sit on the porch in the evenings just like we planned. Noah comes to visit from Montana more often now. We are healing. I thought the nightmare was over. I thought the sound of those handcuffs clicking shut on my daughter's wrists was the period at the end of a terrifying sentence. But I was wrong. It was just a comma. Evil doesn't just vanish when you lock it away. It leaves echoes. It leaves cracks in the foundation of your life. And if you aren't careful, those cracks can split open and swallow you whole just when you think you're safe. We had 6 months of peace. That's what I called it, the quiet time. Spring had turned into a lush, humid Tennessee summer. The crickets were loud in the evenings, and the fireflies danced over the lawn that James was finally able to mow himself again. Watching him on that riding mower, wearing his old baseball cap, waving at me as he made his turns, was enough to make me weep with gratitude. He was back. He wasn't 100%. He still forgot words sometimes, and he tired easily. But the man I married was back in his eyes. The glassy, zombie-like stare that Olivia had drugged into him was gone. We were trying to rebuild. The financial damage Olivia had done was severe. She hadn't just tried to steal the house. She had drained our emergency savings account using a forged signature on a withdrawal slip we didn't even know existed until the bank audit. We were living tight, counting pennies, but we were together. Noah, our son, called every Sunday from Montana. He wanted to come home to help us manage the farm, but James was proud. He insisted Noah stay out there living his dream. "We're fine, son," James would say into the phone, his voice booming. "Your mother is the toughest woman in the state. We've got this." But I didn't feel tough. Felt fragile. I jumped at shadows. Every time the phone rang, my stomach clenched. I had installed new locks on every door, and I checked them 3 times before bed. I couldn't shake the feeling that the other shoe hadn't dropped yet. It started on a Tuesday in July. A letter arrived. It was a plain white envelope with the stamp of the state correctional facility in the corner. My hands trembled as I pulled it from the mailbox. I stood there at the end of the driveway, the heat rising off the asphalt, staring at my daughter's neat, loopy handwriting. To Mom and Dad. I didn't want to open it. I wanted to burn it. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. I tore it open right there by the road. "Dear Mom, I know you hate me. I know you think I'm a monster. But I need to tell you something. I didn't do this alone. I owed money to people who don't take no for an answer. That's why I needed the house. That's why I needed the accounts. They're still out there. And now that I can't pay them, they might come looking for you. Check the floorboards in the attic. I hid something there. Use it. Sorry. Asterisk. Olivia. I crumpled the letter in my fist. Was this another game? Another manipulation? She was a liar. She had poisoned her own father for money. Why would I trust a single word she wrote? I walked back to the house, intending to throw the letter in the trash and never mention it to James. He was doing so well. He didn't need this stress. But as I walked into the kitchen, I saw James sitting at the table, looking pale. Who was the letter from, Sophia? He asked. He had seen me by the mailbox from the window. Just a bill, I lied. James looked at me. His eyes were sharp. Don't lie to me, Sophia. We promised. No more secrets. Not after her. I sighed and handed him the crumpled ball of paper. He smoothed it out on the table, his calloused fingers working over the creases. He read it in silence. His jaw tightened. People who don't take no for an answer, he muttered. Loan sharks. Or she's making it up, I said, pouring myself a glass of water to calm my nerves. She wants to scare us. She wants us to feel unstable again so she can claim we need help. Maybe, James said. He stood up, wincing slightly as his knees popped. But she mentioned the attic. The floorboards. James, you are not going up into that attic, I said firmly. It's 1,000,000 degrees up there, and your balance isn't ready for that ladder. Then you go, he said. We have to know. I spent the next hour in the dusty, stifling heat of our attic. I crawled on my hands and knees, tapping on the wooden planks, feeling ridiculous. I was a 65-year-old woman hunting for treasure because a convicted felon told me to. It was madness. But then, in the far corner, under an old stack of National Geographic magazines, I found a loose board. I pried it up with a screwdriver. Resting in the insulation was a small, black metal box. It was locked. I brought it downstairs. James and I stared at it on the kitchen table like it was a bomb. Do you have a key? James asked. No. She didn't send a key. James went to the garage and came back with a hammer and a chisel. Stand back, he said. He struck the lock. Once, twice. Cheap metal gave way. He pried the lid open. Inside wasn't money. It wasn't jewels. It was a ledger, a small leather-bound notebook, and a flash drive. I opened the notebook. It was filled with names, dates, and numbers. Large numbers. $50,000. $120,000. And next to the names were notes. Asterisk, payment delayed. Interest hiked. Threat received. Asterisk. It was a record of her debts. But these weren't credit card debts. These were illegal gambling debts. My high-flying, perfect daughter had a gambling addiction. She had been betting on everything. Stocks, sports, underground poker. And she had lost. Big time. Look at this name, James said, pointing to a name that appeared over and over again. Liam V. Who is Liam V? Yes. Just then the doorbell rang. We both jumped. The timing was so perfect it felt scripted. I looked at James. He grabbed the hammer off the table. Stay here, I whispered. I went to the front door and peered through the peephole. Standing on our porch was a man. He was tall, broad-shouldered, maybe in his late 30s. He wore a cheap suit that looked a little too tight, and he was wiping sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. He didn't look like a monster. He looked like a salesman. I opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. Can I help you? The man smiled. It was a practiced smile, designed to be disarming. Mrs. Cuban. Sophia Cuban. Who's asking? My name is Liam Vance, he said. I'm an associate of your daughter's. From the city. My blood turned to ice. Liam V. We don't want to talk to you, I said, trying to shut the door. Wait, he said, putting a hand against the wood. He wasn't aggressive, just firm. Please, Mrs. Cuban. I know about the situation. I know Olivia is in prison. I'm actually here to help you. Help us. Scoff. Like she helped us. I'm a forensic accountant, he lied. I could tell it was a lie because he said it too smoothly. Olivia hired me months ago to try and fix her mess. She owes a lot of people money, yes. But she also hid money. Money that belongs to you. I'm trying to recover it. James appeared behind me, the hammer held loosely at his side, hidden by the doorframe. We found the ledger, James said. His voice was deep, menacing. Liam's eyes flickered. Just for a second the mask slipped. He looked surprised, then calculating. The ledger. You found it. We know who you are, James said. You're the one she owes. Liam sighed and dropped the salesman act. His shoulders slumped and he looked tired. Okay. You got me. I'm not an accountant. But I'm not a bad guy, Mr. Cuban. I run a private lending business. Olivia borrowed from me. Blah. And yes, I want my money back. But here's the thing, she told me she stashed cash in this house. Cash that she stole from you. If I can find it, I take what's mine and you keep the rest. There's supposedly over 200 grand hidden somewhere on this property. $200,000. My head was spinning. If that was true, it could pay off the mortgage. It could pay for James's medical bills for the rest of his life. Could fix everything. Why should we believe you? Yes. Because if I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't be knocking on the front door in broad daylight, Liam said reasonable. I just want to close this account. Olivia told me it's in the house, but she wouldn't say where. She said her parents would know. James and I exchanged a look. We were desperate. We were scared. And greed, just a tiny spark of it, flickered in my chest. Not greed for luxury, but greed for security. You stay on the porch, James said. I'm going to call the sheriff. If you call the cops, Liam said quickly, the IRS gets involved. They seize the cash as proceeds of crime. You get nothing. I get nothing. The government takes it all. He knew exactly what buttons to push. He knew we were simple people who didn't trust the government much and terrified of losing what little we had left. Give us a minute, James said. He shut the door. James, we can't let him in, I whispered frantically. He's a shark. He's a criminal. He's a criminal who wants his money, James said, his eyes thoughtful. If there is money hidden here, Sophia, we need it. Olivia stole our retirement. This could be the only way to get it back. It's dangerous. I've got my hammer, James said, trying to joke, but his hand was shaking slightly. And you've got that cast iron skillet. Look, let's just talk to him. On the porch. We don't let him inside. We made a mistake. Terrible mistake. We opened the door. We sat on the porch swing and Liam sat on the steps. Talk. He was charming in a rough way. He told us stories about Olivia's gambling, things that made my stomach turn but confirmed everything in the ledger. He seemed to know so much. He gained our trust by tearing down our daughter, validating our anger. She played us both, Liam said, shaking his head. She told me she owned this farm. Said she was waiting for you two to pass on, so she could sell it to a developer. She said that. Gasp. Cold as ice, Liam said. Look, I don't want to take your home. I just want the 50 grand she owes me. The rest, and I think there's about $150,000 more, is yours. He proposed a deal. He would help us search the property. He knew Olivia's hiding spots, her patterns. If we found the cash, he took his cut, signed a paper saying the debt was paid, and left us alone forever. What if we don't find it? Yes. Then I walk away, Liam said. I write it off as a loss. I can't squeeze blood from a stone. Sounded too good to be true. But desperate people grasp at straws. Okay, James said. But you don't come inside without us. And we searched together. For the next 3 days, Liam became a fixture in our lives. He arrived at 9 a.m. and left at 5 p.m. like it was a job. We searched the barn. We searched the old tractor shed. We dug up floorboards in the guest house. He was helpful. He fixed a loose hinge on the barn door while we were looking. He helped James carry heavy boxes. He was polite. I found myself making him iced tea. It was terrifying how quickly a stranger could weave himself into the fabric of your daily life. But something was wrong. On the third day, Noah called from Montana. "Mom, how's Dad?" he asked. "He's good," I said, watching through the kitchen window as James and Liam poked around the foundation of the house. We have a visitor helping us with some things." "A visitor? Who?" Noah's voice sharpened. He was always protective. I hesitated. "A man named Liam. He knew Olivia. He's helping us find some assets she might have hidden." "Mom," Noah said, his voice dropping an octave. "What is his last name?" "Vance. Liam Vance." "Stay on the line," Noah said. I heard the clicking of a keyboard. Noah wasn't just a park ranger. He had been in the military police before that. He knew how to look people up. The silence stretched for 2 minutes. Outside, I saw Liam laugh at something James said. James laughed back. It looked so normal. "Mom." Noah came back on the line. "Get out of the house. Now." "What? Why?" "There is no Liam Vance connected to Olivia. But there is a Liam Volker. He fits the description. Tall, dark hair, scar on his chin." "Yes," I whispered, my hand flying to my mouth. I hadn't noticed the scar until yesterday. "Mom, he's not a loan shark. He's not an accountant. He's an ex-con. He served 10 years for armed robbery and home invasion. He was Olivia's boyfriend before she met her husband. He's not looking for hidden cash." "What is he looking for?" I asked, my voice trembling. "He's looking for the deed," Noah said. "Olivia didn't just forge a will. She likely signed a quitclaim deed to a shell company before she was arrested. If he finds the original copy of that deed, he can legally claim the farm as his. Or rather, the company's. He's trying to evict you, Mom." The world tilted. It wasn't about cash. It was about the land. This 300 acres of prime Tennessee soil was worth millions to a developer. Olivia had tried to steal it, and now her old partner was here to finish the job. "What do I do?" cried. "Is Dad with him?" "Yes. They're in the basement." "Oh God," Noah said. "Mom, listen to me. Do not let him know you know. I'm calling the state police, but they are 30 minutes away. You need to get Dad away from him. Get to the car. Drive away. Just go." "I can't leave James," I said. "Then get James and get out." Hung up the phone. I felt a surge of adrenaline, sharper and hotter than when I had confronted Olivia. This wasn't just manipulation. This was physical danger. A home invader was in my basement with my frail husband. I grabbed the cast-iron skillet from the stove. It was heavy, black, and solid. My mother had given it to me. It had cooked 1,000 meals. Now it was a weapon. I walked to the basement door. I could hear them talking. "Drywall looks hollow here, James," Liam was saying. "You got a sledgehammer." "Over on the bench," James replied. I went down the stairs. My legs felt like lead, but I forced them to move. "James," I called out, trying to keep my voice cheerful. "Phone call for you. It's Dr. Mason. He says it's urgent about your prescription." I prayed James would pick up on the code. We didn't have urgent prescription calls anymore. James turned. He was standing by the water heater. Liam was holding a sledgehammer, weighing it in his hands. The sight of that stranger holding such a heavy tool near my husband made me almost vomit with fear. "Dr. Mason?" James asked, confused. "Yes, right now," I said, eyes wide, willing him to understand. "Come upstairs." James looked at me. He saw the skillet in my hand, hidden behind the fold of my dress. He saw the terror in my eyes. He nodded slowly. "All right," James said. "Liam, hold on a second." James took a step toward the stairs. Liam didn't move. He just smiled. But it wasn't the salesman's smile anymore. It was a wolf's smile. "I don't think Dr. Mason is calling," Liam said softly. He tapped the head of the sledgehammer against his palm. I think you talked to your son, didn't you, Sophia? He knew. How did he know? I don't know what you mean, I stammered. I have a police scanner in my truck, Liam said casually. And I tapped your landline box outside on the first day. Standard procedure. He took a step toward James, blocking the path to the stairs. So the jig is up, Liam said, his voice cold and flat. No more games. Olivia signed the house over to Vance Holdings 6 months ago. The paperwork is valid. But I need the physical deed to file the expedited eviction without a court battle. It's in this house. Olivia said she hid it, where the heart is. Where is it? Get away from my husband, I said, raising the skillet. Liam laughed. Or what? You're going to cook me an egg. Sit down, Grandma. Before you get hurt. He turned to James. Tell me where the safe is, old man. Or I start breaking things. And I don't mean the furniture. James looked at Liam. He looked at the sledgehammer. And then, a strange calm settled over my husband's face. You think because I forget names sometimes I'm weak? James said softly. I think you're a crippled old man who was poisoned by his own kid, Liam sneered. I think you're pathetic. Maybe, James said. But I'm on my own land. And you're trespassing. James suddenly kicked out. It wasn't a karate move. It was a dirty, desperate kick aimed right at Liam's knee. Clack. Liam howled and buckled, dropping the sledgehammer. Clangor against the concrete floor. Run, Sophia! James shouted, throwing himself onto Liam. It was a mismatch. Liam was 30 years younger and strong. He roared and threw James off him like a rag doll. James hit the washing machine hard and slid to the floor, groaning. No! I screamed. I didn't run away. I ran down the stairs. Liam was scrambling up, his face red with rage, reaching for the sledgehammer. He turned toward James, raising the weapon. I didn't think. I didn't plan. Just swung. I brought that cast-iron skillet down with every ounce of rage, fear, and motherly protection I had in my body. I aimed for his head. Clang. The sound was sickening. Liam crumbled instantly, hitting the floor face first. He didn't move. Silence filled the basement. Heavy, dusty silence. I stood there, heaving for breath, the skillet still raised. I looked at James. He was clutching his ribs, his face gray with pain. James! I dropped the skillet and fell to my knees beside him. James, are you okay? He coughed, wincing. I think he broke a rib. But... Did you get him? I got him, I sobbed, looking at Liam's motionless body. I think I killed him. Good, James wheezed. Check his pockets. What? Check his pockets. 4 keys. Or a gun. We need to tie him up before he wakes up. I don't think you killed him. That head is too thick. We used duct tape. Lots of it. We taped Liam's hands behind his back and his ankles together. We taped him to the support pole in the basement. Then we sat on the bottom step, holding hands, shaking uncontrollably, waiting for the police. When the sheriff arrived, followed by 3 state trooper cars, they found us there. They found Liam groaning, waking up with a massive lump on his head and a concussion. Mrs. Cuban, Sheriff Miller said, looking at the skillet and then at the bound man. Remind me never to make you angry. He threatened my husband, I said, lifting my chin. I'd do it again. They arrested Liam Volker. He was wanted in 3 states for fraud and assault. Noah arrived 2 days later, driving straight through from Montana without sleeping. He hugged us so hard I thought my ribs would break too. We found the deed later. It was hidden inside the grandfather clock in the hallway, where the heart is, the heartbeat of the house. We burned it in the backyard fire pit. Watching the flames curl around Olivia's signature was the most satisfying moment of my life. But the story wasn't quite over. Because when they processed Liam's truck, they found a phone. And on that phone were text messages. Not from Olivia. From someone else. The messages read, *, did you get the deed yet? The old man should be easy to scare. If not, make it look like an accident. I need my share. Asterisk. The number was traced. It didn't belong to Olivia. It belonged to Dr. Mason, the neurologist, the man who had saved James, the man who had whispered in my ear. My world spun again. Why? Why would the doctor who saved us be working with the man trying to rob us? Noah figured it out. It was a double cross, he said, pacing our kitchen. Dr. Mason isn't a hero. He was Olivia's partner in the gambling ring. He was the one feeding her the drugs to give to Dad. He gave her the veterinary sedatives. But he told me to stop. I argued. He turned her in. Because she ran out of money, Noah said grimly. She couldn't pay him for the drugs anymore. And she was getting sloppy. He knew the ship was sinking, so he decided to look like the hero. He turned her in to save his own skin, knowing that if she went to jail, he could send Liam to get the deed and take the farm for himself. He played both sides. Felt sick. The man I had thanked in my prayers every night was a monster. What do we do? James asked. We set a trap, Noah said. A cold, hard look was in his eyes, the look of a soldier. He doesn't know Liam has been arrested yet. The police kept it off the scanners. He thinks Liam is still working on you. So, Noah picked up Liam's confiscated phone, which the sheriff had allowed him to look at because of his MP background. We text him back. We tell him the deed is found. We tell him to come get it. Here. Yes. Here, Noah said. And we welcome him properly. We set the stage. It was a Thursday evening. We left the front door unlocked. We put the deed, a stack of blank papers in a folder, on the dining room table. Noah hid in the pantry. Sheriff Miller and 2 deputies were hiding in the barn and the guest room. I sat in the living room knitting. James sat in his chair reading a book. We looked like the perfect vulnerable victims. At 8 p.m., headlights swept across the window. Car door closed. Dr. Mason walked onto the porch. He didn't knock. He walked right in. He was wearing his white doctor's coat, like a costume of authority. He held a syringe in his hand. Good evening, Sophia, he said, his voice smooth as silk. I heard you found something of mine. Dr. Mason, I said, my voice trembling just enough to be convincing. What are you doing here? Where is Liam? Liam is detained, Mason said. He's a bit crude for my taste. I prefer a more clinical approach. He raised the syringe. Don't worry. This is painless. It will look like a heart attack. Poor James. The stress of the home invasion was just too much for him. He walked toward James. And you, Sophia. Broken heart syndrome. Very tragic. He reached for James. Actually, doctor, James said, closing his book. I'm feeling pretty good today. Drop it. Noah shouted, bursting from the pantry with his service pistol drawn. Police. Freeze. Sheriff Miller kicked open the back door. Dr. Mason froze. The color drained from his face. He looked at the gun, then at the syringe, then at me. It was business, he stammered. Just business. No, I said, standing up and walking over to him. I looked him dead in the eye. It was my family. They took him away in cuffs. He squealed on everyone. He gave up the names of the entire gambling ring, the loan sharks, everything. The aftermath was messy, but it was final. With Mason and Liam gone, and Olivia locked away, the web was finally cleared. We sued the hospital for Mason's involvement, and the settlement was substantial, enough to pay off every debt, fix the farm, and ensure James had the best care for the rest of his life. But the money didn't matter. What mattered was the Sunday dinner we had 3 months later. The table was full. James sat at the head, carving a roast chicken. His hands were steady. Noah was on his right, laughing about a story from the park. I sat on the left. And there was a high chair at the end of the table. Noah's fiancée, a lovely girl named Emily, was there. And their 6-month-old baby boy, Ethan. Grandpa, Noah said. Do you want to hold him? James's eyes lit up. "Bring him here." He took the baby in his big, weathered hands. He looked down at that innocent face, and I saw a tear roll down his cheek. "He looks like you, Sophia," James whispered. "He looks like trouble," I teased, wiping my own eyes. We had lost a daughter. That pain would never fully go away. It was a scar on our hearts. But looking at my husband, holding our grandson, safe in the house we had fought for, I realized something. We hadn't just survived. We had won. We had reclaimed our lives from the fog. James looked up at me and smiled, a real bright teeth-showing smile. "We did good, Sophie. We did good." "Yes," I said, reaching out to touch his hand. "We lived happily ever after." And this time I knew it was true. Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories. And tell me in the comments, do you think I should ever visit Olivia in prison? Or is some betrayal too deep to forgive? See you in the next video. I wish I could tell you that was the end of the story. Really do. I wish I could tell you that after we arrested the doctor, tied up the loan shark, and sent our daughter to prison, the credits rolled and the music swelled. I even filmed that update for you, sitting on my porch, holding my grandson, believing in my heart that the war was over. I signed off, turned off the camera, and went inside to make dinner, thinking we had finally won. But evil is like crabgrass. You can pull it up, you can poison it, you can burn it, but if you leave even a single root deep in the dirt, it comes back. And this time it didn't come for our money. Came for our lives. It started 3 weeks after Dr. Mason was arrested. The leaves were turning gold and red, the air was getting crisp, and James was doing better every day. But I noticed something. A black sedan parked down the road, near the old creek bridge. Just sitting there. At first, I thought it was just kids looking for a place to park, or maybe a lost delivery driver. But it was there every morning at 6 a.m. when I got the paper, and it was there every evening at dusk. Tinted windows, engine running. "James," I said one morning, pointing out the kitchen window. "That car is back." James squinted. He was stronger now, but the stress of the last year had aged him. "Probably just the press, Sophia. Or some true crime tourist wanting a look at the house of horrors where the daughter poisoned her dad." We had been on the news. The poisoned daughter headlines had been everywhere. It was humiliating, but we thought the notoriety was the worst of it. "I don't think it's a tourist," I said. A cold prickle danced down my spine. "Tourists take selfies. They don't just sit and watch." I called Sheriff Miller. He sent a deputy out, but by the time the cruiser rolled into our driveway, the black sedan was gone. Vanished. "Keep your doors locked, Mrs. Cuban," the deputy said, tipping his hat. "Probably just a curiosity seeker. But we'll do extra patrols." 2 nights later, Noah and Emily went back to Montana. They had to return to work, and as much as I wanted them to stay, I couldn't ask them to pause their lives forever. It was just me and James again in the big, quiet farmhouse. That night, around 2 a.m., I woke up coughing. The air was thick, acrid, smelled like burning wood and gasoline. "James!" I screamed, shaking him awake. "James, fire!" We scrambled out of bed. I looked out the bedroom window and screamed again. The sky wasn't black. It was glowing orange. The barn, the historic barn built by James's grandfather in 1920, was engulfed in flames. We ran outside in our nightclothes. The heat hit us like a physical blow. The roar of the fire was deafening, like a jet engine. "The tractor!" James yelled. He tried to run toward the burning structure, thinking of his restored John Deere inside. "No!" I tackled him. I physically grabbed my husband around the waist and hauled him back. "It's gone, James. It's gone. Stay back." We stood there in the grass, helpless, watching 80 years of history turn to ash. The sirens wailed in the distance, but we knew it was too late. The barn collapsed with a sickening groan, sending a shower of sparks into the night sky. When the firefighters finally put it out, the sun was coming up. The barn was a smoking black skeleton. Sheriff Miller was walking through the debris with the fire marshal. He came over to us, his face grim, smeared with soot. "Sophia James," he said quietly. "This wasn't an accident." "We know," James said, his voice trembling with rage. "The wiring was old, but—" "It wasn't the wiring," the sheriff interrupted. He held up a plastic bag. Inside was a half-melted red gas can cap. "We found traces of accelerant all around the perimeter. And we found this taped to the mailbox." He handed me a piece of paper. It was in a plastic evidence bag. It was a single sheet of copy paper. Typed in the center, in bold letters, were 4 words. "Sell or burn." My knees gave out. James caught me. "Who?" James rasped. "Olivia is in prison. Mason is in prison. Liam is in prison. Who is doing this?" "We don't know," the sheriff admitted. "But we're going to find out. I'm putting a squad car in your driveway 24/7 starting now." But a squad car couldn't stop the phone calls. They started the next day. The landline would ring. I would pick it up. Silence. Then a heavy, computerized voice. "The offer is on the table, Mrs. Cuban. 2 million. Take it and leave. Or the house is next." I ripped the phone cord out of the wall. "James," I said, sitting at the kitchen table, shaking. "They want the land. It was never just about Olivia's gambling debts. It's the land." I remembered something Noah had said when he was investigating Liam. Vance Holdings, he said it was a shell company. A shell company usually has something inside it. I drove to the library. I didn't trust my home internet anymore. I met Emma, the young librarian who had helped me print the legal forms months ago. "Emma," I said, "I need to find out who owns Vance Holdings. Really owns it." Emma was a wizard. She dug through corporate registries, state filings, and tax documents. Took her 3 hours. "Okay," she said, spinning the screen around. "Vance Holdings is a subsidiary of a subsidiary. It all leads back to a development firm based in Chicago called Apex Land Group. Their CEO is a man named William Thorne." "William Thorne," I repeated the name. "He's a developer," Emma said, reading a news article. "He specializes in distressed properties. He builds luxury outlets and condos. He's been trying to buy up land in your county for 5 years." I looked at the map on the screen. Apex owned the plot to the north of us. And the plot to the south. We were the missing puzzle piece. The 300 acres in the middle that connected the highway to the river. Without our land, his other investments were worthless. "He used Olivia," I whispered. It all made sense. Olivia's gambling debt wasn't random. Thorne probably found out she was in deep, bought her debt from the underground bookies, and then used it as leverage to force her to steal the farm for him. When she got caught, he sent Liam. When Liam got caught, he sent Dr. Mason. And now that his puppets were in jail, the puppet master was taking matters into his own hands. He was burning us out. I went home and told James. "It's William Thorne. He's the one." "Then we fight him," James said. He was cleaning his shotgun on the kitchen table. "We can't shoot a billionaire developer, James," I said gently. "He has lawyers. He has resources. He has arsonists. Then what do? "We need evidence," I said. "We need to prove he ordered the arson. We need to prove he was blackmailing Olivia." "How?" "Olivia hates us." "I know," I said, feeling a pit in my stomach. "That's why I have to go see her." The state women's prison was a gray, soulless building 3 hours away. The drive felt like a funeral procession. I hadn't spoken to Olivia since the sentencing. I hadn't answered her letters. I sat in the visitation room, behind the thick glass partition. The air smelled of bleach and despair. When they brought her in, I barely recognized her. Her hair, once blonde and perfectly styled, was brown and pulled back in a severe ponytail. Her face was gaunt. No makeup hid the dark circles under her eyes. She looked 10 years older. She looked broken. She sat down and picked up the phone. Her hand was shaking. "Mom," she whispered. She sounded like a little girl. "Hello, Olivia," I said. My voice was steady, but my heart was breaking. No matter what she did, she was my child. Seeing her in a jumpsuit with a number on her chest was a physical pain. "I didn't think you'd come," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I wrote you letters. Did you read them?" "I read them," I lied. "But I'm not here for an apology, Olivia. I'm here because the barn burned down 3 nights ago." Olivia's eyes went wide. "What? Is Dad okay?" "He's fine. Physically. But we know who did it. William Thorne." At the mention of the name, Olivia flinched. She looked around nervously, as if the walls had ears. "Mom, don't say that name," she hissed. "He's dangerous. You don't know what he's capable of." "I know he burned my barn," I said, leaning closer to the glass. "I know he bought your debt. I know he forced you to drug your father so you could sign over the deed to him." Olivia put her head in her hands and began to sob. "I didn't have a choice, Mom. He told me. He told me he would kill Noah. He sent me photos of Noah at work in Montana, through a sniper scope. He said if I didn't get the farm, he would kill my brother." My blood ran cold. She hadn't just done it for money. She had done it out of fear. It didn't excuse the poisoning, but it explained the desperation. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Yes. Why didn't you go to the police?" "Because he owns the police," Olivia cried. "Or he pays them. He said he has eyes everywhere. Mom, if you fight him, he will kill you. Just give him the land. Please. Just walk away." "I am not walking away from my home," I said fiercely. "And I am not letting a bully win. I need you to help me, Olivia." "I can't," she shook her head. "I'm in here. I'm useless." "You're not useless. You have proof. You must have proof. Emails, texts, recordings." Olivia hesitated. She bit her lip. "If I give it to you. If he finds out." "He already tried to burn us alive, Olivia. We are past the point of playing nice. If you ever loved us, if you ever loved your father, you will help me take this monster down." Olivia stared at me. I saw the conflict in her eyes, the fear battling with the guilt. Finally, she took a deep breath. "The cloud," she whispered. "My secure cloud backup. The police seized my computer, but they didn't get the password for my hidden server. Kept everything. The threats, the instructions from Thorne, the wire transfers where he paid Dr. Mason. It's all there." She recited a web address and a complex password. I scrambled to write it down on the back of my visitor's pass. "Mom," she said as the guard signaled that our time was up. "Tell Dad. Tell Dad I really am sorry. I was so scared." "I'll tell him," I said. I put my hand against the glass. She put hers up to match mine. For a second we were just mother and daughter again. "Be careful," she mouthed. I drove home like a woman possessed. Called Noah on the way. "Noah, get to a secure computer. I have the keys to the kingdom." I gave him the login information. "Download everything. Send it to the FBI. Send it to the State Attorney General. Send it to the New York Times if you have to. Do not trust the local police." "On it," Noah said. "Mom, get to a safe place. If Thorne finds out Olivia talked, he'll move fast." He was right. I pulled into the driveway just as the sun was setting. The patrol car that was supposed to be watching our house was gone. "James." I ran inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. "James." I found him in the kitchen. He was sitting in his chair. Standing behind him, with a hand resting casually on James's shoulder, was a man in a charcoal suit. He was silver-haired, handsome in a corporate way, and holding a gun. William Thorne. 2 other men, large necklace security types, were by the back door. "Mrs. Cuban," Thorne smiled. It was a shark's smile. "Welcome back. How was the prison visit?" "Touching reunion." He knew. Course he knew. He monitored the visitor logs. "Get away from him," I said, dropping my purse. "I'm afraid I can't do that," Thorne said. You see, you've become a very annoying problem, Sophia. I offered you money. I offered you a peaceful exit. But you had to go digging. He tightened his grip on James's shoulder. James winced. Where is the flash drive? Thorne asked. I know Olivia gave you something. Password. A location. I don't know what you're talking about, I said. Don't lie to me. My contact at the prison said you were writing something down. Give it to me, and I let you walk out of here alive. Keep it and well. The barn fire was just a warm-up. You're a psychopath, James spat. Thorne hit him. He pistol-whipped my husband across the face. James slumped forward, blood trickling from his temple. No, I screamed, lunging forward. One of the goons grabbed me. He twisted my arm behind my back, pinning me against the refrigerator. The information, Sophia, Thorne said, aiming the gun at James's head. Last chance. Or I paint your kitchen cabinets with his brains. I was trapped. If I gave him the password, he would delete the evidence and then probably kill us anyway to silence us. If I didn't, he would kill James right now. Okay. Okay. I'll tell you. It's in my purse. I wrote it down. Thorne nodded to the goon holding me. Check the purse. The man let me go and dumped my bag onto the floor. He sifted through the tissues and receipts until he found the visitor's pass with the scribbled code. Got it, boss, the man said. Thorne smiled. He took the paper. See. Was that so hard? Now we can erase Olivia's little insurance policy. He pulled out his phone and started typing in the web address. James, I whispered. I'm sorry. James looked at me. His eye was swelling shut, but he gave me a tiny, almost imperceptible wink. Suddenly, Thorne frowned at his phone. What is this? It's not logging in. Maybe you typed it wrong, I said. I didn't type it wrong, Thorne snapped. He tried again. Access denied. File not found. He looked at me, his face reddening. You gave me the wrong code. No, I said, standing up straighter. I gave you the right code. But you're too late. What? I called my son an hour ago, I said, a fierce pride swelling in my chest. He's already downloaded everything. And he just wiped the server clean. You're holding a key to an empty room, Mr. Thorne. Thorne's face went purple. He realized what this meant. The evidence was out. The FBI probably already had it. You stupid bitch, he snarled. He raised the gun. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. He aimed at my chest. I braced myself for the bullet. Crash. The kitchen window shattered inward. A canister flew into the room, clattering on the tile floor. Thick white smoke exploded outward. Tear gas. Police. Get down. Get down. The front door was rammed open with a battering ram. Men in tactical gear swarmed into the hallway. FBI. Thorne coughed, blinded by the gas. He fired a shot wildly into the ceiling. Drop the weapon. I dropped to the floor, crawling toward James. The goons were already on the ground, zip-tied. Thorne tried to run out the back door, but a tactical team was waiting on the porch. They tackled him into the mud. I pulled James under the kitchen table as the room filled with smoke and shouting. We held onto each other, coughing, crying, listening to the sounds of justice finally arriving. Noah had done it. He hadn't just downloaded the files. He had flagged the FBI field office in Nashville immediately. The evidence in Olivia's cloud was so damning, murder for hire plots, arson, racketeering, that they had mobilized a SWAT team within the hour. They had been surrounding the house while Thorne was threatening us, waiting for a clear shot. They dragged William Thorne away in handcuffs, screaming about his lawyers. Paramedics checked James. He had a concussion and a nasty cut, but he was alive. Mrs. Cuban, the FBI agent in charge said, handing me a blanket. You have a very resourceful family. We're hard to kill, I said, wiping soot from my face. The fallout was massive. Peck's land group collapsed. Thorne was indicted on 30 counts of racketeering and attempted murder. The evidence Olivia provided linked him to crimes all over the Midwest. And Olivia, because of her cooperation, and because her testimony was the linchpin that took down a crime syndicate, the district attorney offered a deal. They shaved time off her sentence. She wouldn't be free tomorrow, but she wouldn't die in prison either. I visited her again a month later. "Thank you," I said through the glass. "Did you save the farm?" she asked. "We saved it," I said. "And we saved ourselves." She nodded, looking down at her hands. "I'm glad. We're going to put some money in your commissary account," I said. "And James says he might come visit next time. He's not ready yet. But maybe in a few months." Olivia started to cry. Real tears. "I don't deserve that." "No," I said honestly. "You don't. But we're your parents. And we're done with the hate. It's too heavy to carry." Life returned to normal, but it was a different kind of normal. We were wiser now. Harder. We rebuilt the barn. The whole town came out to help. It was a barn raising like in the old days. People brought food, tools, and lumber. Even Sheriff Miller hammered a few nails. When the frame was up, James climbed the ladder to nail the final beam in place. He stood up there, silhouetted against the setting sun, looking out over the land that 3 different men had tried to steal from him. He raised his hammer in triumph. The crowd cheered. I stood on the ground, holding my grandson, Ethan, who had come to visit for the occasion. "Look, Ethan," I whispered to the baby. "That's your grandpa. He's a fighter." We sat on the porch that evening, the new barn smelling of fresh pine in the distance. The fireflies were out. "Sophia," James said, rocking in his chair, "do you think it's finally over?" I looked at the road. It was empty. No black sedans. No loan sharks. No doctors with secrets. Just the quiet Tennessee night. "I think so, James," I said. "I think we chased the wolves away." He reached over and took my hand. His grip was strong. The tremor was gone. "Good," he said. "Because I'm tired of fighting. I just want to be your husband again." "You were always my husband," I said. "Even in the fog. You were always there." We sat there until the stars came out, 2 survivors on a porch swing, listening to the crickets. We had scars. We had lost innocence. But we had kept what mattered most. And as I watched the moon rise over the fields, I realized that Dr. Mason was right about one thing. I should have kept my daughter away from him. But he was wrong about everything else. He thought we were weak. He thought we were prey. He forgot that even an old dog bites if you kick it hard enough. And this family, we bite back. So, to anyone watching this who thinks they can take advantage of the elderly, or steal from a family, take a good look at me. I'm 65 years old. Bake cookies. I knit sweaters. And I took down a crime boss with a cast iron skillet and a mother's rage. Don't mess with Grandma. Thank you for watching our story. If you're going through something similar, if you suspect a loved one is being manipulated, don't wait. Trust your gut. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with your family. You never know who needs to hear this. And tell me in the comments, what is the one thing in your life you would fight a crime syndicate to protect? I'm Sophia Cuban, and this was my story. Stay safe out there. And keep your eyes open.